got a lot to go through today. So we just want to get right on into it. You know what I mean? We want to start off, with what started off is just a bunch of peaceful protests that the Attorney General Barr is saying has been hijacked by terrorist groups, as he names them, Antifa and a list of other groups that says that that he feels as though is against the U.S. government. I will give it to Barr. He said that for the most part, that most of the protests started off as being peaceful, and then they have been hijacked. You have a president that I have said many times before that I think that he's using these protests, first COVID and protests in lieu of a chance to try to stay in office and to use these things so he can shut down certain aspects of our society, voting, being able to get back and forth into the courts, and a number of other things. But I'm gonna just show you this video real fast of how he feels about the whole thing, and then we'll just get into like the whole Portland thing, because Portland is on fire.
There's a big difference. I don't leave. We did nothing wrong except create the greatest economy in the history of our country. We did nothing wrong except rebuild our military like nobody's ever seen before. We're doing a great job. Our country
This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is about America and the proper role of law enforcement. I hate to say it, but it looks like this president is doing a dress rehearsal for martial law.
All right. Her and a few other mayors and governors even across the country are siding with her and saying that he's overstepping his boundaries. Martial law is defined by involving the temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule, and is usually invoked at a time of war, rebellion, or natural disaster. What are your thoughts on what's going on in the White House and in Portland, and some of like these other protests that are still going on?
Well, it's no surprise or no mystery that his administration has an authoritarian slant, and has also been described, particularly by Cornel West, as neo-fascist.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not necessarily surprised that they might be flirting with the idea of martial law for a number of reasons, but I'm just gonna wait and see what really happens. I mean, it's still an possible egregious overstepping of boundaries, and I imagine maybe even unconstitutional, but we'll see in that regard.
Okay, because he's talking about deploying thousands, as he says, thousands upon thousands of troops, to other cities so that they can dominate the streets. Then we get down to the Attorney General. He got pulled in before Congress, and they asked him about the police brutality that's being used during some peaceful marches, and he defends them, saying that it's the right thing to do, particularly Lafayette Square, when the president wanted to go down for a photo op in front of like the church. Protesters were hit with tear gas, rubber bullets, and all this other stuff to clear them out. He justifies the whole thing by saying that they tried to set a church on fire. They were throwing like 90 police officers got injured down there at this so-called peaceful protest. My question is, if you have in a situation like that where you're saying that 90 police officers have been hurt, they're throwing fluids, they're throwing bricks, they're trying to set things on fire, why would you take the president down there? That seems like a pretty hostile environment. You know what I mean? Just to take a picture in front of the church.
No, it's a thinly veiled attempt at giving a poor reason for his photo op. They couldn't just say, yeah, we did it for a photo op, but it's like, oh no, they were tripping, and we decided, hey, this is a good idea for him to take a picture of the Bible at the steps of the church to pander to his evangelical base. So yeah, it's standard stuff for these, standard clownery for the Trump administration.
Yeah. So at the same time, I think that Congress has tried to remind the Attorney General Barr many times that he's not Trump's attorney, that he's actually the attorney for the country, and that he doesn't actually represent Trump. But many times he gets, questioned about some of the things that he does, simply because it seems as though he's doing certain things either for his interest or in his defense. Mainly when with right now, as we can see with like the protests going on, and when asked, why, why is it that we see on many college campuses peaceful students sitting down and police officers, walking by and just spraying them in the face, with pepper spray, and he comes right back and is like, oh no, it's okay. And then when the mayor starts talking about martial law in Chicago, is chiming in as well as like I said, some other governors. He says like we're not invoking martial law. What we're invoking is the Insurrection Act. That gives us, permission to be able to use military force in these type of situations, and that. And he's saying that the troops are not there to break up the protests, but to protect federal property. Do you feel as though that's also just, I can't say that, federal property isn't being vandalized, but at the same time, I don't know if it's being vandalized on a scale where we have to bring in the military to shut certain things down.
Right, yeah. I don't believe so either. I haven't been... honestly, I haven't been keeping up with that part of the protests.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I know there's been there's definitely been damage to federal buildings.
Yeah.
But to me, it just seems like an excuse for to hype up their base and things like that, just to invoke panic. Look at what these guys, Antifa's running around firebombing everything, and
right.
BLM is setting Whole Foods on fire and they're looting. So yeah, I mean it's corny, but there is a certain element that would give not necessarily credence, but would give these authorities a reason to try to invoke that type of response.
Okay. I seen a bunch of people rally behind Nick Cannon once he got dropped from the network that he was working under, because of his podcast, the comments that he made during his podcast. And just recently seen him tweet that he would vote for Kanye West. and that kind of ruffled the feathers of a lot of people, especially in a time where we have the president claiming that there's a lot of mail fraud going on with or that will go on with mail-in ballots. One of his biggest supporters, financial supporters to his campaign, has recently been named as the postmaster You
Yeah,
know, go
Postmaster
figure.
General Louis, what's his name? Louis DeJoy. Yeah, Louis DeJoy. He's a major fundraiser.
Yeah.
His wife's, I heard his wife's slated to become um, ambassador to Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, and in that she had to like to release their to notify whatever money holdings they have, and it turns out that they have like you know hundreds of millions of dollars in in stakes for companies that are in direct competition with the post office.
Hmm.
So they stand to make such a crazy amount of money if they can continue the Republican assault on the post office and eventually privatize it is what they're planning to do.
It,
So yeah, by stating it's not financially solvent. So the funny thing is that it's they for the Republicans in I think 2006 created a I don't know if you want to call it a law or whatever, but it's a requirement for the post office to have health care, retirement health care paid for its employees
in
for
advance.
75 years in advance. This was 2006. Now, I don't know how you could overturn that, but I haven't really seen any, the sad part, I haven't seen any Democrats, besides like recently Bernie Sanders was talking about it, and even before that.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen like any major Democratic response to that. That it's been 14 years. It's been on the books, and
and it's killing them.
nobody's done anything. And it's a service. Like the worst part, like it's not created for to create profits for the government. It's for service to the constituents of the citizens of the U.S. And without them there's certain places in probably even U.S. territories, but like rural places who wouldn't get mail, or they would have to have like a central area where they would pick up their mail, like so it's a service. It also provides government jobs that pay decent. You can have a decent retirement. My dad worked for the post office.
Okay.
He actually worked for the what do they call it? FedEx does it now. FedEx and UPS.
Oh, the parcels.
Parcel, yeah. So he started out as a parcel clerk. So in his lifetime, he saw them privatize that part of the post office. Like, that part has been privatized. It's no longer, they no longer do parcels. Now, FedEx and all the other companies do the parcels, and you can already see the the price difference and things like that. That would also come into play if the post office was disbanded and sold, piecemeal, as well as pay, and benefits and things like that for the employees, so.
Would it surprise you if I told you that the post office is responsible for 3/4 of the world's mail? U.S.
Nope.
Post Office?
Nope.
It is absolutely bananas.
I'm sure the people that want to destroy it know that. And
Oh yeah, and that it's all self-funded.
Like, we can make billions upon billions
Yeah,
doing this.
and it's all self-funded. The U.S. government doesn't actually pay into the postal service, which is crazy
Right.
because they're the only so-called government employees that aren't actually government employees,
Right,
because
right,
like they're it's a crazy, like they have like the oddest the department within the U.S. government of any
Right.
department in the U.S. government, because they have to fund themselves. You know what I mean? All of their money and everything that goes from like the pay and, like you said, the 75 years ahead of time. You know what I mean? All comes from buying stamps and people mailing out letters and receiving letters and so on and so forth. And they just loaned them what, a few $100 million or $1 billion. It was something crazy. They just loaned the post office a bunch of money. So because of like this 75-year, this absolute absurd thing, you know what I mean, that you have to have everything paid up ahead. I don't even think the U.S. government has 75 years paid up for Medicare. But you have to have, like, the post office has to be set up for the next 75 years. You know, it's crazy, and I'm afraid of what to happen. Not only, you know what I mean, if they privatize like the post office, as to what's going to happen to like our mail communication in that form, but also that lump sum of money that's sitting there is going to go in someone's pocket, and I doubt very seriously if it's going to be actually used for the retirement of these people. You know,
They'll just take it and give it to shareholders, or you know, CEO bonuses. You know, one thing, it definitely won't go to workers.
No.
You know,
no. So
they, you know, probably wouldn't honor any of the retirement pensions or anything like that either.
So with that said, I find it very odd, you know what I mean, that, you know, with this, and so, you know what I mean, with the post office in such good hands and in good shape, that the president would make these type of comments. Let me show you this video real fast.
Mail-in ballots for voting.
I think mail-in voting is
But
horrible.
you voted by
It's
mail
corrupt.
in Florida's election last month, didn't you?
Sure, I could vote by mail for that.
How do you reconcile
Because I'm
that?
allowed to. Well, that's called out of state. You know why I voted? Because I happen to be in the White House and I won't be able to go to Florida to vote.
What's the difference between mailing within
well, there's a
state or
big
mailing
difference
outside
between
state?
somebody that's out of state and does a ballot and everything's sealed, certified, and everything else. You see what you have to do with the certifications, and you get thousands and thousands of people sitting in somebody's living room signing ballots all over the place.
These type of things, when you start to line them up, is what I mean by, I don't think he clearly legally doesn't have the authority to initiate martial law, but he does have the power to put in certain aspects and tenets of martial law that would, you know what I mean, actually allow him to, well, at least attempt to stay in office. When you vote yourself by mail, and then you turn around and say that this is going to be fraudulent, you know what I mean, mail, what do you say, like people sitting in their living room with like 1,000 ballots or something ridiculous, you know what I mean, and just filling them out and mailing them in. Now you're going to tell me that the post office is going to go and see 1,000 ballots or even 100 ballots in the mailbox at once, or someone coming into the post office dropping off like a stack, you know what I mean, of ballots, like, oh yeah, I collected these from my neighbors, we're good, you know, and nobody is going to bat an eye.
Right. Well, the thing is, you know, there definitely is a small cottage industry for people to fill out fake forms. You know, that's been going on for years. You know, if you listen to certain podcasters and, you know, other you know, nut jobs in the media, they'll tell you that, you know, there's definitely an industry of people filling out those mail-in ballots en masse. You can look in Craigslist and find all types of ads for people to do that. There's also, you know, Craigslist ads for people to drive buses in from various places into other districts so they can double vote.
Yeah.
You know, well known that, you know, Tijuana has a bus line that goes straight into San Diego, strictly for voting Democrat. So yeah, it's a big industry, man. You're with it. You're with it. But seriously, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's typical Trump clownery, and they know that, particularly, at the time when he said it, his re-election is in serious jeopardy, and particularly due to his beyond fumbling, it's like the worst. I can't even think of a sports analogy for what he did. Hitting into a not even a triple play, like a quadruple play.
Right.
With the bases loaded, no strikes. He got the slugger up the bat, and then he hits into a
triple play. Everybody out. Nobody scores. Yeah.
People, next cats in the lineup are already out. So
Man.
Coronavirus. So he knows that he's in trouble. So he's trying to do everything he can to create some kind of dissent in what the possible outcome of the election would be, because he screwed it up. I mean, I still believe that if he didn't screw up the coronavirus to this level, to like 300,000 people dying, 5 million people infected, that he would have a good incumbent's chance of re-election, which I'm not for. I want to be on the record. Not advocating for his re-election, but it's that's what happens when you're running a clown show.
You sure you ain't got no stacks over there, man? You ain't sure you ain't got no stacks of ballots over there? You just going Republican down the line?
Like anybody who's I do a couple stacks. What's the pay per hour?
The thing, and I'm glad you brought up like the whole corona thing, because for me, I'm looking at it like, for like the last 4 or 5 months, you've been telling people, oh, don't go outside, wear your mask, stay away from people, social distance, social distance, social distance. But then you purposely, and I seriously believe this, you purposely have people in disfranchised communities that have to stand in line for 6 to 8 hours in the beaming sun. It's hot out here, man. In the sun. We're talking about 80 years old, 70-year-olds. You know what I mean? People that have health problems. You're telling them, no, you can't mail in your ballot. You have to go down there in person and vote. So you have someone with heart disease. You have someone that have breathing problems. You have someone with kidney problems that need to go back and forth to dialysis. And you're telling them, no. You need to go and stand in line, where we already know that the machine is scheduled to go down for about 2 hours, you know what I mean, every half an hour, or at least a half an hour every other hour, to, you know what I mean, keep the lines long. So the people get frustrated and just leave, or want to fill out a paper ballot, and we don't even have enough provisional ballots down here for you to cast your vote that way. Right. To me, and I get upset when people say, oh, you know what I mean, like, your vote don't count, your vote don't count. Your vote does count. Your vote counts if you actually vote for somebody that represents you. The problem is we you know what I mean, people go in and they vote for people that don't represent them. And then they turn around and say, oh, my vote don't count, or they don't vote at all and still complain about, you know what I mean, what's going on. Yeah. People have been voting by mail for decades. So all of a sudden it's claimed that, you know what I mean,
little to no problems.
Exactly. So you're telling everybody like, oh, the corona is going to put your health at risk, but not at the polls, because nobody at the polls has corona. So you can go to the polls and it's going to be okay. You can stand outside in hours, you know what I mean, and everything is going to be okay. Well, we know if you're in the city, you're going to have mad problems trying to vote. But if you live in the county, you know what I mean, and certain tax based areas, higher tax based areas, you're not going to have a problem at all. And I find it laughable that that he believes that only Democrats are going to vote by mail, as though
No, he has a strong elderly base that all votes by mail. So, I mean, that's why it's more clown show stuff, because he didn't think it through, as usual. Listening to cats like Stephen Miller, who's another idiot. Yeah, it's just you're not thinking anything through. You're not strategizing. Probably the best thing for America and the worst thing for him is that he threw Steve Bannon under the bus, because Steve Bannon really did some. Although he's a horrible person as well, like Steve Bannon,
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. Definitely fecal matter, but he did great strategy, especially for not having ran a campaign before.
Mm-hmm.
Almost single-handedly moved Trump in a direction that would legitimize him amongst the disaffected workers and
Right.
amongst the disaffected workers and the rest of the cadre of people who voted for him. So
Right.
Whether it's economic issues or racial issues or a little bit of both, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
Steve Bannon will appeal to both of those subsections.
Yeah, which absolutely blows my mind, because these are the same people that was just like, oh, we need to open up the coal mines, as though you forgot all about black lung. You know what I mean? Because black lung wasn't that far away. Either they're, probably a lot of these people either suffer from black lung, their father or their grandfather died from it. You know what I mean? From working in like the mines. And the first thing you want to do is just reopen the mines. It wasn't safe. Wasn't safe health, for your health care. Wasn't safe for fracking for the earth. You know what I mean? But like you said, man, he appealed to these same people. And that's what I said about, like, when you go in and you vote for somebody that doesn't really represent you. I'll give you this real quick analogy. Western Pennsylvania, buddy of ours that still stays out there, went to right after Trump got in, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of Obamacare, so on and so forth. And their representative came, they had a town meeting, and everybody's like, yeah, get rid of it. We don't want that garbage. Get rid of it. Everything that has his name on it, get rid of it. About a year later, after they got rid of it, he came back. He came back, and they're like, hey man, what happened to our health care? He's like, hey man, you told me get rid of it. Like, no, we told you get rid of Obamacare, not the Affordable Care Act. Like, yeah, it's the same thing. Like, you said you wanted it gone. And it said, man, they cussed this man out, gave this man all types of blues or whatever. But it's because you listen to, you listening to some garbage. You're listening to some garbage, someone leading you down the wrong road, making you believe that that they're actually doing something for you, when what they're actually doing is harming you. Not that I'm a big fan of the Affordable Care Act, but that's just an example of how people are duped.
I'm actually not a fan at all. I mean, I'm a fan of certain provisions for it. I know some people who benefited from it, but the truth of the matter, the Affordable Care Act was
horrible,
based on a right-wing response to single-payer health care, which is one of the which once people get past the hero worship and maybe 20, 30 years down the line, they'll realize that this was a mischance for Americans to have some kind of public health care that's worthy of a so-called first world country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. But just to wrap up like the whole voting thing. On top of making it hard on the elderly to be able to get there, the erosion of the original Voting Rights Act, whereas they took out stipulations that were put in place purposely to stop states from being able to discriminate against certain minorities and certain groups of people. Within 2 months of Section 4 of this act being removed, North Carolina immediately started imposing voter ID laws, followed by South Carolina, Texas, Alaska, and then it just spread more and more, where you had to show, all types of ID. You can no longer just take like a piece of mail and show where you are. One of the amazing things that I find about this from my own personal experience is that I always voted in a small town. I grew up in a small town that was had its own municipality, so we held all of our voting there. And as soon as you walk in, everybody knows exactly who you are. Oh, this is another, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Tell them my name, give them my date of birth. They give me my ballot. I go and vote. Then in Florida used this with this section being taken out. They used that, took an advantage of it, and just started removing people from the voter registry, along with Michigan and a lot of other states. For all the people that say like, oh, that was a couple of years ago, so on and so forth, just about a month or so ago, I think it was either Mississippi or Alabama, they had a large turnout of people registering to vote. And the first thing that the guy said that's in charge of voter registration is, we have a lot of black people registering to vote. We need to do something. That's a problem. If that's your if that's your first reaction to people registering to vote, that's a problem.
Well, it's generally known that Republicans win when the vote is depressed. Like, less people vote, better for Republicans. So it's not a surprise that they would use these tactics. They've used tactics like this, gerrymandering. Even the Nixon's war on drugs was more about attacking the people who they knew wouldn't be voting for them, was more than dealing with any type of drug epidemics.
Mm-hmm.
And that was relayed from an advisor who said it maybe a few years ago. I forgot when, but he said the whole plan was to eliminate blacks and to eliminate hippies from society. Generally, I forgot what the actual quote was, but to eliminate them from the voting rolls so they can easier win offices and gain more power in the country or whatever. So yeah, I'm not surprised by any of the tactics actually. And I know and it's funny that you said that North Carolina was the first state to do that, because a few years ago there was a man by the name of Thomas Hoffler.
Okay.
Who was known as the master of the modern gerrymander. Was in North Carolina, and he was instrumental in creating the modern way to reshape districts for benefit of a particular party. So and his daughter actually found all his thumb drives and put all this stuff out on the internet to for the general public to review. Because so I mean, it's common. What they do is they depress the vote. They're trying to win. They know they win when less people vote. So it's like, hey, let's cut down these voting rolls. Too many people are trying to vote, so we gotta cut them. We gotta cut these numbers down.
Yeah. That definitely sounds like a Pornhub title. You know what I mean? Oh man, Master Juryman, man, number 3. Yeah. So right before John Lewis passed away, the House passed, to reinstate, the original Voters' Rights Act, and it is pretty much set since December, along with anti-lynching law, which when I first heard that they were looking to pass an anti-lynching law, I just thought that it was like a commemorative thing, you know what I mean, something just to do, to mark a time in history, hopefully that is passed by. But then we have five black men, or 4 black men, 1 Hispanic guy, found hung in public places. 2 of which they have proven to be actual suicides, but the other 3 are open to investigation. And then you stop and say, like, maybe we do need a anti-lynching law. And I've said before that even though I think that Ron Paul was one of the writers of this law, I'm not blaming him for the law not passing. But at the same time, how do you not vote for a law that you helped write? I find it absolutely amazing. And then we have this incident where this young man, was almost lynched, and pretty much the police pretty much did, well, it's not that they pretty much did nothing, they did nothing. I'm gonna show you give me a second. I'm gonna show you a clip from the interview that he had on public television.
Okay.
Pulled up the county rights, the land rights in my phone in real time to show this commanding officer that this land wasn't actually these folks' land as they were claiming. He still continued to berate me. I explained to him how they had literally tried to lynch me. And he said, well, I could go arrest them, but then they could say to us, well, what do you mean? We can't defend our property? And he was just fixated on this notion that somehow, even if I had been on private property, which I wasn't, that superseded the importance of my life.
I find it disheartening, even when you have an educated black man that is able to articulate himself, able to keep his own composure, and be able to tell you exactly in detail what was going on and what was happening. That you have people that have been deputized to serve and protect you, to turn around and act as though they want to arrest you when you've already been victimized. And if he didn't know the law, I'm quite sure this officer would, well, he did end up just walking away and doing nothing. Walked away and did nothing. And if it wasn't for like the doctor at the emergency room when he went into the next day about his injuries, forcing the police the police to come down and take a report and list his injuries. And if it wasn't for her intervening on his behalf, I don't think that they would have ever filed a report. Nobody. I think 2 of the 5 men have been arrested so far. But the fact that you're sitting there and you're fighting for your life, and these strangers or these other people that's in your group come along and help save you, and you're listening to these people talk about how they're going to kill you. They're talking about go and get a noose and put it around your neck. You call the authorities. The authorities don't even come to you. The authorities go to your abusers and ask them what happened, and then come to you and justify why they were right. Yeah, I think that apparently it's not too late to pass an anti-lynching law in this country, and it's sad that we're still at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how prevalent it is, but it seems like a layup to pass an anti-lynching bill. It doesn't seem like something controversial to do,
Right.
I'm still not sure what provisions were put in there for, that would give it the amount of teeth it would need in it to compel authorities to actually do the work, or to make it strong enough where authorities would have to take it seriously when even an attempted situation would, have to be like, all right, let's take this seriously, let's handle this, and this is a federal crime, so we're gonna have to, take all you guys into custody until we figure out what's going on. Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward, but
yeah,
yeah,
American politics. With the included this anti-lynching bill, one of the biggest things according to representative from District 2 in Maryland, was saying that it would allow the federal government to step in and go after these police officers that overstep their boundaries. And like in the cases with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, things of this nature. The gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, that got pulled over for, I think his license was expired, and he tried to, I think this is North Carolina, he tried to run and the cop shot him 6 times in the back and then planted a weapon on him and said that he attacked him. Yeah, I mean, there's just a long list of incidents that have happened, whereas they would be able to go to this law and start prosecuting these officers. And I don't know if that was the reason behind it not passing or what. All I know is what I read was said that it was too broad, and no, it's not, man. As black men, you and I both know, man, we have to. There's so many different fronts that we have to fight. We have to fight. You know what I mean? To break down the racial hatred within our own race. You know what I mean? Within our own men against each other. We have to fight against, you know what I mean, the police, which to me are just the foot soldiers that are safeguarding the racial system in which, you know what I mean, the United States operates in. It's the amount of things that we have to overcome and that we encounter in our lives. You know what I mean? That we have to overcome. Being killed by someone else just because of the way we look. You know what I mean? Because maybe we were in the wrong neighborhood, or so-called the wrong neighborhood, or because this group of people over here feels as though, you know what I mean, that it's okay to take our lives. And you know what I mean? It's just like everywhere you go, you have to be mindful that someone wants to take your life because of what you look like. Not because of who you are, not because of something that you did, but based primarily on what you look like. And I think that is a stress and something that only black women would understand, because of the same amount of pressures that are placed on them, that this law needs to be passed. So then when you have all of like these internet gangsters that's like, oh, we're gonna wipe out the whole black race. You have these gang members that's like, oh, I'm gonna get this dude, I'm gonna get this person, I'm gonna get that person, and you fight and you kill over a pair of shoes, you fight and you kill over a comment on Facebook, you fight and kill because you think that because somebody took down a statue of a racist bastard, all of a sudden infringes on your rights, so now you got to go and kill an actual person over a statue. You have to go and actually kill somebody for your right to openly carry, you know what I mean, in your state. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I think that it should be brought. Personally, I think that it should be brought because our lives are in constant danger.
I agree.
So, with that said, I think it's been a great show. I gotta give a shout out to Scene Vision, to Sister Treats. My son is actually working on his project, man. Solar 215, supposed to be coming out at the end of the month. I'm waiting to hear it. He sent me a couple of little tracks from it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm waiting to hear that. It's funny, man. Cause one minute, you know what I mean, you picking them up and taking them to school, man, and y'all freestyling in the car, you know what I mean, over like some Pete Rock instrumentals, you know what I mean. This dude hits you up like, oh, Dad, man, I'm about to, I'm working on my own project right now, you know what I mean. It's an amazing time, man. I'm thankful for that.
That's what's up.
Any shout outs?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to, Malik B from the Roots.
Rest in peace.
Militant, bad lieutenant, died way too soon. Still don't know under what reasons, but really underrated MC, and made him and Black Thought were also underrated great rap duo.
Yeah.
And they both played off each other and made each other better. I was listening to I always have it in rotation is No Great Pretender.
Oh.
Was that the Philadelphia Half-Life album, and that's just Malik B going for Dolo, and you can tell he's just one of them MCs that could rhyme for like 78 bars with no problem.
Yeah.
Another one I was just peeping was the Proceed 2
Mm-hmm.
song with Roy Ayers, and you could just see the skill of Malik B. Like, he was just a pure MC, just like it seemed like he could spit at any given time, and it's always going to be something fly. It don't have to be necessarily the most complicated lyrical stuff, but at the same time it's still lyrical and done with a lot of style. And he was also the for me, like, the heart of the group that gave them their street credibility. Not that you always have to have street credibility, but that was another thing that he brought. But I also want to give a shout out to James Baldwin for his birthday that passed. You have his video ready to go?
I do.
Yeah. So we'll hit that at the very end, and then also want to give a shout out to Kwame Ture, who got thrown under the bus by Clinton at the John Lewis. What would you call that? The John Lewis
ceremony.
Yeah, ceremony. And I think what I might do from now on, I mean, I'm glad that he put him under the bus so I could go back and take a look at some of his work. Now, Kwame Ture was previously known as Stokely Carmichael, and that's what Bill Clinton called him. They changed his name to Kwame Ture. He was a member of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and one of the original founders of the Black Panther Party, like the political party, not the Black Nationalist Party. This is the political party, I believe, that was in Mississippi, and he was just a great voice for the people, and a real, just a real fighter, and a great orator, and he's sorely missed. And I believe that I might every once in a while just peep a clip, find a little clip of some nuggets of wisdom for him to drop upon us, because some of his wisdom is very much needed.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah.
All right, with that said, man, peace, man. Until next week.
Okay. Yeah.
Later.
Well, I know this. Anyone who's ever tried to live knows this. So what you say about somebody else, anybody else, reveals you. What I think of you as being is dictated by my own necessities, my own psychology, my own fears and desires. I'm not describing you when I talk about you. I'm describing me. Now here in this country we've got something called a nigger. It doesn't in such terms, I beg you to remark, exist in any other country in the world. We have invented the nigger. I didn't invent him. White people invented him. I've always known, I had to know by the time I was 17 years old. What you were describing was not me, and what you were afraid of was not me. It had to be something else. You had invented it, so it had to be something you were afraid of. And you invested me with it. Now if that's so, no matter what you've done to me, I can say to you this, and I mean it. I know you can't do any more, and I've got nothing to lose. And I know, and I've always known, and really always, that's part of the agony. I've always known that I'm not a nigger. But if I am not the nigger, and if it's true that your invention reveals you, then who is the nigger?